Hello, my friends. In this episode, I have the gorgeous Abiola Abrams. This woman is radiating goddess energy, and that is her message. You do not have to be scared of being seen or heard, and you can completely own that feminine self and all the strength and power it gives you. There are ancient rituals and practices, as Abiola and I discuss, that our forebears used to do to make sure that we felt individually honored and powerful. She has modernized these and brought them to today. So Abiola and I are talking rituals and feminine power and being able to step out and really just go big in your life. You're going to find everything that you want to know about her at her website, womanifesting.com. That's like manifesting with a w in front of it. And please look for her new book. It's called African Goddess Initiation. It sounds amazing. It's full of gorgeous illustrations and ancient history that's been brought right up to today. So we can practice some of these things ourselves and really break through a lot of limitations in our thinking and the way people told us we're supposed to act and behave like. So she's got a meditation series, she's got an oracle card deck, and with that, I'm going to let her tell us about all the rest as we launch right into this interview. Hi, I'm Summer McStravick with FlowDreaming.com, and welcome to this series, Scarcity Thinking Sucks, So Do Limiting Beliefs. So let's dissolve your limited thinking, dump those scarcity thoughts, own your power, and get you back on your feet, reaching for the stars. Over the course of these episodes, you'll hear from some really brilliant minds about ways they pinpoint and blow up limiting beliefs in their specific areas of expertise. So come with me on a journey into your mind and heart, and let's see what we can find in these very enlightening conversations. Hi, Abiola. How are you today? I'm just so happy that you're here. We were catching up a little bit before this, and let's just kind of keep rolling with that same feeling.
Let's do it, Goddess Summer. I'm so excited about our conversation.
Great. Okay, so you're perfect, absolutely perfect to be talking into this subject of limitations in your thinking, limitations in what you allow yourself to dream about, scarcity. I mean, you're all about breaking that, and in particular, you wrote one thing when I was, having you fill out little paperwork about this interview. You said that people want to be seen and heard, but they're simultaneously terrified of being seen and heard. And I said, oh my God, yes, bless you. I want to start with that.
Yes.
How do you see that in people and how do you shake it out of them? How do you help them see it? Like, just go.
Yes. So, Summer, I am obsessed with this topic because it is the thing that I hear the most from the women. The women, I attract goddesses and enlightened beings who come to work with me or come to my retreats or just listen to my stuff on online. And I hear that they're what I call big vision women, big vision humans, who say that they've been given a big calling and feel that call toward, what they're wanting to put into the world. And they want to be seen and heard desperately, but at the same time are terrified of being seen and heard. And we see this all throughout society, for people who don't have, a worldwide vision or just have a vision of being the best mom or dad or person to their family, who it's the biggest complaint in marriages and relationships. He doesn't see me. She doesn't hear me. She doesn't listen to me. My mother won't hear me. My children don't listen. It's the biggest thing that all of us face. And it is a huge challenge. And we keep on passing it down because we don't heal it. Whatever you don't heal, you're going to pass forward. Right. So it is a big, big thing. And the way that I work with people on helping them to be able to heal this is at the level of healing the shadow beliefs, first of all, that are preventing you from being seen and heard, and doing that by tapping into the energy that helps you get to the frequency of the divine. So it's very similar.
Okay.
Yes.
How is that done? You've got me. You
Yeah.
hooked me. So how in that case? So for me, I see it almost like a multi-part experience. One is
Yes.
this awareness that I'm not seen or heard, and I'm
Yeah.
yearning to be seen or heard. But I'm afraid if I am, I will be punished. I will be put down. I'll be told, "Don't be so too big for your britches." All that
All of
stuff.
it.
And you
Yes.
realize it's there and it's muddling around. And then you have the next step, which is the revelation of, do I have to keep feeling this way? And then
Right.
comes the next step of, what do I do about
What do I
feeling
do
this way?
about
How
it?
do I break it? So how do
Yeah.
you use that? Like, how do you use the feminine energy for that?
So it starts with learning how to love ourselves and accept ourselves. That most of us who are alive on the planet right now are fortunate enough to have grown up in a time where, at the very least, we grew up with people telling us, just love yourself. But no one told us
Yeah.
how, and they couldn't teach us because they didn't know oftentimes themselves. So they couldn't give us what they even, what I call the well meaning people who raised us in most cases couldn't give us what they were also trying to get themselves. And so it is, it's the same. We all have there's so many different methodologies to get into the state of the divine, from modern, what I call, what we've, ancient rituals that we've modernized. So, like, meditation and that sort of thing. But also, using ancient rituals, which is what a lot of my work incorporates, bringing
Yeah.
ancestral rituals into our present moments and our present lives in order to help us to tap into our inner divine. And so it's very similar to what you call being in the flow state. It's all the same thing that we're doing, whether it's EFT, emotional freedom technique tapping, it's all the same thing. We're all trying to awaken the divine within. And so with my work specifically, what I use is ancient African wisdom and ancient ancestral goddess wisdom, and create ritual around ancestral rituals. So I'll give you an example. So there is
Yes,
a
please.
Yes, there's a community in Zambia called the Nkanga people who have something called the milk tree ritual that, is used when a girl is coming into her own, in puberty. And so this is a ritual where they have a tree that gives a sap that is very similar to mother's milk, and the girl, sleeps under the tree held by her mother, at the age of 14 or so, and is nurturing, and it's recreating the idea of breastfeeding. She's drinking from the tree and all of that. One of the things, and the reason this is important is because I feel like we have lost ritual in our society that helps us to have rites of passage to continually love and accept who we are, who we're becoming, and our connection to where we've come from. So I live in Manhattan, so I don't have a connection to, I don't have access to this mystery.
There's no milk trees. Yeah. Okay.
Right? So it's like, okay, then how can we bring this ritual into our lives? So there's a beautiful ritual that I've, been gifted, downloaded, co-created, that is a milk cleansing of, you can do a milk cleansing of your body or of your home while you,
Oh.
bathe in milk and speak affirmations and love into your body and into your energy, and just resetting your energetic frequency. And so it's something that is current that you can use in your life. Affirmations, we've become, familiar with mantras, etc. But it brings the divine, the energy of the divine, and it's a timeless thing.
Yeah, gosh, my mind is going in so many directions on this. I was fortunate enough to have had a coming of age ritual,
That's
because my
beautiful.
mom is,
Yes.
pretty
Goddess.
woo woo. So
30 years ago. Yeah, 25 years ago. Something like that. How old am I? I forget anymore. But yeah, it was on the beach, and I was encircled by a lot of women, and they pounded on drums and gave me gifts and incenses, and we did all kinds of stuff. And I
Yes,
remember thinking at the time, wow, this is cool because, like some of my Hispanic friends were having quinceañeros, and
exactly. Or
there was
bat
nothing for
mitzvahs.
me.
People were having bat mitzvahs and
So, but Miss
quinceañeras,
exactly,
and
yeah, uh-huh.
yes,
So I had something, and it was really anchoring because it made me realize, oh, there's something important about this. There's
yeah,
something important that's being seen in me. And I mean, just to bring back that kind of ritual, like, and I'm imagining most people, watching or listening right now, they're not 15 or 14. So,
right,
what is the
right.
ritual for a mature woman, or I guess it could be any gender?
Any person. So there are all kinds of rituals that we can do. I mean, if we look at the word spiritual, it has ritual built into it, right? And oftentimes people get
Yeah.
scared of the word when you say, okay, I'm going to introduce you to a ritual. People think, oh my goodness, this is, terrifying.
Oh,
Even in our, so called woo woo community, people are afraid of the idea of ritual. But there's so many rituals we already participate in, from if you think of blowing out the candles on a birthday cake, or putting up a
ah,
Christmas tree, or whatever it is. We're participating in rituals, all the time. But this is consciously using the power of ritual in order to heal. So another one that you could do, and, anyone could do, is, mask rituals are very, very important in West Africa and Southern Africa. And, it's made it into this hemisphere in terms of masquerade and carnival. My family's from Guyana, which is in South America, but is considered a Caribbean country. And so we have carnival and, mask and costuming, and, is all a very, very important ritual that shoots down the idea of, say, respectability politics. Or, a lot of us were told, young ladies sit a certain way, young ladies, should be seen and not
yeah.
heard. You raise your voice to a certain level, otherwise, you are unwelcome. And that is terrifying to us. That's why we're afraid to be, seen and heard. We're not making this up. I just want to just emphasize for your audience, this is not something, these are primal fears, right? That, hundreds of years ago, you made a wrong move, you could be kicked out of the tribe, right? And there you are
Yeah.
now on the prairie, in the jungle, and wherever, and you could not probably survive by yourself. And so there's a primal fear that we have about betraying the tribe, being kicked out of the tribe. So you're not making this up. It's your beautiful amygdala, your beautiful reptilian part of your brain that's saying, "Oh, whoa, don't make moves. You don't want to talk back. Don't tell your brother or your sister what you're really thinking. Don't tell your boss. Don't raise your rates. Whatever it is. Don't wear that loud color. Don't do your hair like that's not
Yeah,
nice.
you're right. All of those.
All of
Yeah,
those
yeah.
things. And
Mhm.
so, we're terrified to be seen and heard because we don't want to be kicked out of the tribe, or, crabs in a barrel, as they call it in African American culture. They say when a crab is trying to climb out of the barrel, the rest of the crabs will pull them back in, or tall poppy syndrome, as they call it in Australian culture. When one poppy grows too tall, the other poppies have got to, cut it back down, or,
Oh,
so
there's a similar one, I think it's from China. The flower that grows too high in the field is the first to be cut. And
wow.
I remember hearing that for the first time,
Wow.
and I thought, gosh, I have felt like that so many times. I'm standing
Yes.
alone.
Yes.
I'm at risk. I'm at risk because I grew higher. So I
Yes.
hear you. I've
That's it
over and over
exactly.
I've pushed against that. So, yeah.
That's it exactly. So there is a mask ritual that is very simple, very powerful, something that you could do by yourself, or even do this with your children. Again, the power of ritual. And so with all of these rituals, you can light your candles and burn your incense and play your music and add ceremony to it. The masking ritual, one of the ones that I share in my upcoming book, African Goddess Initiation, is called The Mask That Grins and Lies. And the name comes from, there is a poet, Paul Laurence Dunbar, who in the 1800s was an African American poet. And he wrote, he had the line in his poem, we wear the mask that grins and lies. And he was just talking about, presenting one face, when inside we're feeling another, which so many of us can relate to. And so you can create a paper mask, and on the outside of the mask, write or draw or illustrate or collage or, use your artistic expression, for how the face that you show to the outside. And then on the inside of the mask, write who you really are. Who is it that you don't get to show? Who is the part of you, your little self that is yearning to come out, yearning to have a voice, that maybe is able to speak up in one context, but not able to speak up in others? Who is, the 8-year-old you who's maybe showing up at board meetings or showing up, to negotiate with your family, or, so on the outside of the mask, you write, like I said, you illustrate or write, the outside face, and on the inside of the mask, the inside experience of who you are. And it sounds so simple, Summer, but I have done this at retreats, with, my beautiful goddess tribe from, Belize to Bali. And it is incredibly moving, to have the physical representation there of this mask. And so at the end of the ritual, you can do whatever works for you. So some people prefer to burn them or destroy them. Some people, prefer to, and you do that, of course, with love, lovingly release who you have been projecting onto the world. Or you can, some people choose to display them for a certain period of time in their homes or in their bathroom, where they can interact with this self as they, realign who they were born to be. So it's a very, very powerful process. Very powerful.
I love it because it's taking something that is kind of ephemeral, and it's distilling it into something actual physical that you can hold in your hands, that you can look at and see looking back at you. And I think a lot of times we get all this stuff stuck up in our heads, like, I know it, but I don't know what to do about it. But when you anchor it into something like a mask, now it's something that you have kind of like power over, essentially, because it's now
Yes,
something that you can see and hold, and you've named it. So you have it. It's yours now.
that's
Um,
it.
that's gorgeous. That's gorgeous. In your book, do you have pictures of any of these? Because I know I'd want to go all crafty on it and
Yes,
sequin it
yes.
up and yeah.
So the book is illustrated. It doesn't have pictures of the rituals. It has pictures of the goddesses. So each
Okay.
ritual is inspired by a goddess and inspired by an ancient African ritual. And so it has pictures of the goddesses, like goddess Oshun and goddess Atete and goddess Sekhmet and Satyra. So we learned in school about, Venus and Athena and Aphrodite, but this is introducing, us to these African diaspora goddesses. And an incredible artist named Destiny Powell did the illustrations for the book and also for my upcoming Oracle card deck that comes out later this year.
Oh, I love it. I cannot wait. I'm
Yeah.
so glad I ran into you. I love this. I'm thinking I have pictures of goddesses. I post up on my, you can't see it on the wall on the opposite this, that I'm always glancing up to, looking around the side of my monitor. And I just did that because it felt good, because I liked looking at these beautiful, colorful, strong, powerful figures without actually having a whole lot of knowledge about them. It was just this
Yeah.
sense. the sense.
Yes.
So,
Yes, it's we've been doing this since time immemorial. So even though you and I right now are speaking across the our country, speaking from coast to coast, via
yeah,
technology, this is a circle that we've held many times, I'm sure, in the ether throughout,
yeah,
throughout the
yeah,
ages.
yeah, yeah. Wow. Okay. So people want to be seen and they want to be heard, women in
Yeah,
particular, but
yeah.
all kinds of people who've been boxed in, shut up,
Everyone,
pushed
everyone,
down,
yes.
told we have expected ways. I mean, certainly men have experienced this too. There's an expected way to be a man, and you better not deviate from it.
Right,
Thank God
right.
all of that is changing. Um,
Yes. People are afraid of being laughed at, humiliated,
yep.
dismissed, all of that, all of that.
I think sometimes too, like you mentioned, I thought it was funny you put in the phrase and raise my rates. Like it's one of the
Yeah,
limitations. And it's like, yes, because we still tend to separate the sort of inner power from the power that we express in the world. So we can be powerful and full of our goddess selves in our home and with our families and friends and our clothing. And then we go to work and we're like, yeah, but I can't do it there. I'm not going to ask her. Or if I'm in my own job, I can't ask for that much. Nobody
right,
really wants to pay me that much for my Reiki or for, and then
right.
we see that area where suddenly it's dimmed down again. And it's so odd. Some are
Absolutely.
up and some are dimmed. So what do you think about that?
Yes. I have this I'm passionate about talking about as well because I think that, we have a kind of idyllic view of, uh, well, like you said, ancient healers, for example, I encounter a lot of women who do what we do, who are healers, who are coaches, who are, and who feel like, oh, well, but, money and spirituality doesn't mix, or money and creativity doesn't mix, right? Or money and femininity doesn't mix. We have all of these stories about abundance that we tell ourselves. And my great grandmother in Guyana was a midwife and the equivalent of a women's fertility healer. And, I myself also had, these ingrained beliefs in my head because I felt like, well, when I hear the stories about her, the community took care of her, and communities used to take care of, people like you, people like, come in and swoop in and take care of us. But here's the shift that I want us to realize. It's all energy. Every single thing is energy. And so at that time when my great grandmother was being paid in chickens and eggs and people bringing her a goat or whatever, it's the same exact thing as, someone's employer paying them a certain rate, or, your clients and customers investing in themselves through you by paying a certain rate. It's the
Hmm.
same thing. It's all energy. And so I want us to shift the idea of, the idea of something being secular. It's all energy.
Hmm.
It's all spirit. The beautiful self-help movement and personal development movement that we are a part of has done its best to remove the idea of spirit from a lot of personal development to make it palatable to a wider audience. Like, okay, we'll take out the woo woo and we can repackage it, and but it's all spirit. It's all energy. And so,
Yeah.
whether you are,
I just
yes. I know
I
that's
just got this funny image of your grand what was that? I'm talking over you. So sorry.
sorry. Go ahead.
I got this funny image of your grandmother saying, "Oh, don't give me that big of a goat. I don't deserve. I know my work is not valuable. I don't need that big of a." Can you imagine that ever happening? I mean, it would reflect poorly on the community around her that they did not
Right.
value what she was giving. And translate
Yes.
that to today. If somebody says you're worth this, you're like, "Oh no, I'm not even going to try and be worth that. I'm not even going to give you the opportunity to think of me as being worth that." And that's where those
Mm,
low rates come in, or that not asking for our value comes in. I mean, that's
yes.
just, it's
Yes.
a perfect, that was a perfect way for me to understand it. Thank you.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
it's the same exact thing. And so it's like, okay, I'm gonna give you a pie, but this pie is a
Mhm.
swipe of my credit card. It's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
you know, and the jubilation that I know that I feel from
Mhm.
investing in myself through a healer, a coach, a therapist, a teacher, a person, a course that I feel like is helpful and empowering. Do you want to cheat others of that joy? Again, it's all energy. We're in a sacred circle together, and that circle looks different at different times. Sometimes it may look like a podcast
Hey,
or,
uh-huh. That
yeah,
that reminds me, because you were mentioning the circle of everyone together. It sounds like these rituals, I mean, and really just kind of waking up to this whole, like, learning about this area, this knowledge. It can be done alone, and that would be powerful. But when you do it in a group, and I had a recent conversation with someone else about this,
yes,
how the group aspect of it sort of not only magnifies it, but it gives it a kind of, what's the word, like a realness. It gives it
yes,
validation. It sort of
yes,
allows you to say, oh, my tribe is doing it too. Okay, then I will. And do you
absolutely.
encounter that when you're working with groups or facilitate that?
Yes, absolutely. I have had the honor of leading goddess circles for the past 20 years, and it's interesting that for people who are very young who are listening, you'll see it's very interesting when you find society kind of catching up with what you're doing, and and that sort
Yeah.
of thing, and
Yeah.
people saying, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay, you weren't crazy. That I get it."
That's like me dancing around on the beach with all these crazy ladies 30 years ago. I can only imagine
Yeah,
what people were thinking.
exactly,
Oh, it was the 80s.
exactly. Exactly, and
But
it's the
yeah.
same thing, like, yeah, that, the power of coming together in community, which is how many of these rituals were originally done. The power of community is
Mhm.
incredible and powerful and really, really important with any of these practices. And so, yes, it's very important
Yeah.
that you do them, many of them yourself. But one of the things, for example, in the book that I
Mhm.
teach people how to do is how to put together your own goddess circle. And it's the reason why I hold group retreats, even though we can meet together virtually, because there's nothing that
Mhm.
can replace us coming together as a group, and in each other's energy to help to magnify each other's vision for the world,
Mhm.
to reflect back to ourselves, who we are. That's human. That's our human nature. We were not meant to walk this earth alone. We really were not. So it's like that beautiful line from Dr. Maya Angelou's poem, I come as one, but I stand as 10,000, that we don't walk by ourselves. We didn't come to do that. We didn't come to do that.
Yeah. Speaking of, you just made me realize something. I often encounter people who say, "I'm not a joiner. I'm not good in groups. I don't." And what I often hear instead is, "I don't find that I'm valued in a group, because if I
Yeah.
was valued, if I felt valued by that group, then of course I would be there, because I would be all loved up." So I've
Yeah.
become a person who, my limitation that I've sort of developed over time, maybe since childhood, is, um, I'm not seen in groups. I don't They don't value me or want me. And so therefore I don't want them, and I am a lone wolf. And I'm wondering if that could be something that is also changed. That in itself is
Absolutely.
a limitation to move through.
Absolutely. I will share candidly with you and with your audience. I
Mhm.
completely was in alignment with that frame of mind and completely understand it. I have social anxiety and I don't necessarily feel comfortable in, big crowds and big groups and all of those things. And in addition to that, even simple things like, for example, there are family group conversations and group chats that people have that I don't necessarily align with. And so being comfortable in groups. Oftentimes, when people say to me, well, I don't feel comfortable in groups, I say, well, think about which groups you don't feel comfortable in, and which groups you might feel comfortable in. So sometimes it's the
Mhm.
wrong group for you. It doesn't mean that you need to feel
Yeah.
comfortable within every group. We're not for everybody. I'm not for everybody. You're not for everybody. None of us are for everyone. And so it's exactly what you said,
Right.
going back to the idea of being seen and heard. Sometimes those just aren't your people. They're just
Mhm.
not your folks. you know and so you may
Yeah.
be related to them, you may work with them, you may have gone to school with them, whatever it is, doesn't mean that they're your people. So you find your
Yeah.
people, and people who are willing to see you and hear you
Yes.
and be present for you. Those are your folks. Those are your people. So for example, you being here, the audience listening to this conversation, you were magnetized here for a reason. You were pulled here for a reason. You're not listening to this by
Yes.
accident. So this is your tribe, this is your community, this is your group, these are your folks.
Mhm.
Very
Yeah.
different than,
So a way through that limitation,
yes. So one
a
way
way
through,
through that limitation
yes.
to
So
practice
one,
discernment and to say,
yes,
I'm promising myself that I'm going to try to heal this, right?
yes, yes, absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. And a really fun and powerful ritual. Well, it all starts with willingness. So, first of all, saying, okay, I'm willing to release that belief about myself, which is a big thing because when we get into a story about who we are, and we get locked into that idea,
Yeah.
I am not this kind of person, or I am this kind of person, and we get very married to the
Mhm.
belief of who we think we are. So, the first step is being willing to release that belief. Okay, maybe there might be some groups that are for me, or some communities where I'm able to be seen and heard. That's a new and refreshing thought. And so there's a really fun ritual that is based on the Yoruba people of West Africa, who are my ancestors. Called we have something called mojuba, which is an ancestral. The best way to describe it is like an ancestral praise poem, a way to praise your ancestors, kind of going through the list of your ancestors. And so I encourage people not to and to let's see, here's the best way to put it. I encourage people to create a praise poem for themselves and based on who they are and their own ancestral path. So they're not doing mojuba because that's not their culture, but they're creating their own praise poem. And so, and what's beautiful in a group, to read this praise poem, for about yourself and see it reflected back with people going, yeah, that's awesome. So if it's like, okay, Summer, first of her tribe, with her wearing her glasses and her pink lipstick and her beautiful, so praising ourselves in a way and having an audience, cheer you on to say loving things about yourself. Because particularly for us as women, a lot of us grew up in places where being self-deprecating is how we felt accepted in the group. Oh, I look so fat. Oh, my
Yes.
hair is horrible. Oh, this
Yeah,
dress is dirty. I just got this out of the
that was
laundry.
mine. Mm.
Mine too. I went
Mhm.
to all girls education for most of my life. And so we bonded around that. We bonded around, the ain't it awfuls. It's horrible. You walk into a room and you go, oh my
Mm.
God, everything sucks. And people are like, yeah. You walk into a room and you go, yeah, my life is great. And people are like, what's wrong with her? Oh, she must have a mental problem. Why are they so happy? you know?
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
so
Yep.
so
Yeah.
so being able to do a self praise poem that honors yourself in a fun and joyful and uplifting way, and having a crowd going, yeah, whether that crowd is 3 or 33 people, yeah, yeah, you do. She does have the perfect wisp of hair. Yes, her glasses are magnificent. Yes, her eyes are beautiful. All of those things is incredibly fun and uplifting and
That's
vibrates in our
fun.
soul and awakens something within us that says,
Yeah.
I am divine. I am a goddess. I
Yeah.
am, I am. It redoes that I am from I am all of these horrible things, I am the best that life has to offer, not I am, the worst thing going.
I love it. And we could talk for another hour, Abiola. I know it. In fact, you've been seeing me. I'm writing notes as we talk in case I'm looking down. It's like, oh, I want to do that. I want to remember that. Don't lose that thought. So you've been so full of information, things that we can do right now, but also just kind of stimulating, I think, this desire, certainly in me. I want to go meet some goddesses now, right? I want to go find
Yes.
some rituals, so it's not just an abstract thingy in my head, but something I can kind of bring into my own practice, which
Yeah.
is full of different bits and pieces from all different places. But now I know why I have my goddesses on the wall, and I need to find out all about their
Yeah.
names and their backgrounds and everything else. Okay, so
That's
you have
beautiful.
something for people who want to learn more about you. Like, I love what she said. What do I do next? What do you have? What do you want to share with
Yay.
people?
Well, the exciting thing is that in addition to my book, African Goddess Initiation, which is launching this summer. That's Sacred African Goddess Initiation, Sacred Rituals for Self-Love, Prosperity, and Joy, coming from Hay House this summer. This spring, right now, probably by the time you're listening to this, what's available right now is Entering the Goddess Temple, which is a meditation program to help you get started on this beautiful path of realignment. And you can get started actually with my free Stop Self Sabotage Kit. And Summer's got a link here somewhere. The link is richgoddess.club, but there will be a link. Click it, come get the free Stop Self Sabotage Kit, and then let's get on our goddess journey.
Yeah, and I guess by also getting that, then you'll be able to give them information. Where do I buy the book? Where do I buy the meditation kit? I'm sure there's a
Absolutely.
number of options, from Hay House to Amazon to maybe your site and so forth. But
Everywhere.
it'll get the
Yeah,
conversation started.
absolutely. And my site is womanifesting.com. So like manifesting.com, but womanifesting.com. And come chat with me throughout social media. I'm throughout social media at Abiola TV, where the TV stands for transformation and victory.
Yes, and I have to say, you were remarkably easy to get a hold of. I was delighted when I
Yay.
reached out to you. You emailed me right back. I'm like, oh, she emailed me right back. What? So, all
Yay.
right.
Thank you,
Abiola, thank you
Summer, for all
so
you
much.
do.
Thank you, thank you. I think we had a little delay from our coast to coast conversation, but hopefully everybody was okay with that. God, it was a blessing having you, and thank you so much. And I'm sure that our paths are going to keep crossing as life turns forward.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I look forward to sharing this widely with everyone. So, looking forward
Oh,
to it. So, whether you delay it or don't delay it, just, let me know.
I sure will. All right. Thanks, Abiola. Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Bye, Summer.